Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Denton. It is vampires, and there's a host of damned souls at Penner House.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. Can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hi everybody, this is Irene from the Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And as usual tonight, I'm here with Markle Farkle.
Markle Farkle?
Markle Farkle. Mark Johnson.
Wait. What was that last one you just said?
Markle Farkle.
Uh-huh. I think you dropped the R on that last one.
Oh, no, not me.
Uh-huh.
I don't. I'm a good girl. I don't use bad language.
My aunts used to do that. Call me out all the time.
I know. That's how I found out about it. You told me, and then, since then, it's stuck with me.
Mm.
Yeah.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
You should have done, shouldn't you?
Yep. Oh, well.
Anyway. So, we've got a good show for everybody tonight.
Yep.
Well, Mark, before we go, what's been happening there?
No, not much. It's been unusually warm again. And everyone's freaking out about the Bud Light virus. And I'm sorry, is it the Coors Light virus or coronavirus? And if you get the coronavirus, do they give you a complimentary lime?
Ah, now you keep on saying that it's beer over there, but it wasn't. Corona over here is fizzy drinks, cherryade, lemonade, and all that sort of thing that your children in the 70s used to drink. I used to buy it by the crate for my sons. Literally buy it by the crate.
Well, here in the U.S.
Get it off the milkman, believe it or not, off the milkman.
Here in the U.S., it's a Mexican beer brewed down in Mexico, and it's popular, although it's pretty low end. If I'm going to drink a Mexican beer, I'll do Modelo. Tastes much better.
Oh, they've just stuck the prices up on all the alcohol in this country. Do you know, a bottle of cider the day before yesterday would cost you £3.99 for a litre of cider, and today, the day after, £7.99. They hiked it by all that money, £5.
So is everybody panicking over there as much as our news media is over here? They make it seem like it's the end of the world, and it's really not that bad over here.
Well, Bobo Boris has come out. He's given a good talk on it today. And, I suppose they're taking it very, very serious over here. You know, yesterday we had 39 confirmed cases. Today we got 51.
51 out of how many millions of people? It doesn't sound like it's...
Yeah, I know, but that's the same with Italy, wasn't it? You know, they started off, the first time I heard about it getting into Italy, there was 5 confirmed cases. Within a week, there was over 200.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it really does move pretty quick when it moves. And they reckon that 5%, one in 5 people will be off work during this epidemic or whatever it is. And they also said that if the NHS gets stressed, overworked, they move the army in, that the police force will only be doing serious investigations. I suppose that's like murders and things. So, you know, the
or insulting, certain immigrant groups, because that is a death penalty crime over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Well, the way I look at it, the burglars are going to have a field day, aren't they? Because if the police aren't going to come out to anything like that, you know?
See, this is where you all need to be like...
nicking the drivers, though.
This is where you all need to be like us over here in the U.S., you know, where we have our Second Amendment and we're allowed to own guns to protect ourselves, although they're trying to take that right away from us. But I think enough people are fighting against it.
Yeah. Well, so what's happening with your elections over there? Who's going to get it?
I don't know, but it's comedy gold.
Is it?
Oh, good Lord! These Democratic debates are if they weren't so boring, you know, I watch the highlight reels, which are, you know, absolutely hysterical, and all of these idiots. Every time any one of them opens their mouth, Trump gets another vote. So no matter whether you love Trump or hate Trump, the Democrats are so shooting themselves in the foot right now. They act like the most clueless bunch of clowns. Biden doesn't even know where he is half the time. Then you got old communist Marxist Bernie. So
I'm going to get a lot of complaints.
Oh God, Bernie's probably going to be Bernie Sanders is probably. Bernie Sanders is probably going to be the nominee, even though they tried to torpedo him last time with Clinton, because he's too far left for even them. So, and if they do that, you know, welcome 4 more years of Trump.
Oh, so there's only 2 left in the running then?
I'm not sure. I know they're dropping like flies.
Are they?
Yep.
Well, I don't understand politics. I don't understand politics over here, let alone over there where you are. So.
I hate them all. If I had my way, that swamp would be drained and every single one of them would be out. But, you know, yeah, what can you do?
Well, that's it, isn't it? So, what are we going to do? Get on with the show?
I think we should get on with the show. It's going to be a hell of a lot more fun than talking about our lame politics.
Yeah, it will be. Because, like I say, I don't understand them. And I expect a lot of our listeners don't either.
Nope. So, who's our first guest for tonight?
Elaine.
Elaine who?
I was nearly said Elaine Page. Elaine Thorpe. Elaine Thorpe, along with another guest, Jonathan.
So, Elaine, welcome to the program.
Very mysterious, very mysterious.
Elaine, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Elaine, I nearly introduced you as Elaine Page.
Oh, blimey, I wish I could sing like her.
Well, you'd make some money, wouldn't you, girl?
It'd be like a cat's choir.
Now, for our listeners, Elaine has been on the show before. It's been a while, so we thought we'd have her come back to talk about what she's been up to lately. Now, Elaine is was the correct term for you be a trance medium?
That's right, yes.
Okay. So just as we get started, for those new listeners, tell us a little bit about your background, when you first learned that you had these abilities, and how did that come about?
I learned about them when I was around 38 years old, and it happened when I went to Ireland. I went to stay, away for the few days that we were there. And we were going to meet my then husband's family over there, because his father had passed away previously, a few years before. And I thought, well, it's our last night at the hotel. I wondered if his father could make a connection with us. So we were all going to bed in the hotel room. And I thought, well, if you can make a connection in my own mind, if you could give us a sign, then I'd be grateful for that, because I was missing him, And so nothing seemed to happen. And so I thought, well, I don't know. I'll send my love to him, and then I'll make an attempt to relax and go to sleep. And so the children then were in the double bed next to us, and we were in another double bed in quite a large room. And I thought, well, I'll relax and go to sleep. And then something seemed to happen after, I don't know how much time, because I laid there for what must have been a half an hour, drifting. And then I was laying on my tummy at the time, so I felt my tummy pull in, and then I saw all of a sudden this voice bellow out of me, which seemed quiet to me, but the children said, "Oh, it's so noisy, Mum. It was so loud." And then their dad said, "Well, what happened to you?" I said, "Well, I don't know. It's strange. It's never happened before. Maybe I was just shouting in my sleep, but it didn't feel like that, because it didn't feel like I was asleep. I was still alert enough to be relaxed, but able to be conscious enough to hear everything. So it seemed rather strange. And I know that my father had been a physical medium many years previous to that. So I rang up one of his friends that used to sit with him in their circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to her about what happened, and she said, "Well, it's trance, and your father's a physical medium, so the gift has passed over to you in some way." And then she put me in touch with this lady that could help me develop.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll go along to the meditation class and try that out. So I tried it out, and I wasn't too keen on it. I didn't like the idea of this controlled new meditation, which I'd never, ever done before.
Yeah.
So she said, "Well, try the trance evening. Come back at such and such a day on an evening where they do the trance evening." And I did that. I was introduced to the other members of the groups, and they were all nice people, you know. So she put some music on for us, and it was like an experiment. We all went into a relaxed state with the music, and it just seemed to happen straight away. So that's how it started, and I seemed to enjoy the group from week to week, but my guy didn't actually show up in the group. He showed up next door in my neighbour's house.
Did he?
Yeah, he asked.
What, through somebody else?
No, through me, but I was just went into her house and had a cup of tea, and her friend met. So she said, "Can you show me your trance thing?" I said, "Oh, I'm not sure. I've been doing it for a few months and I'm not sure." So she said, "Well, let's just give it a try," and I did.
Mm.
And then as the end came near, my guide, Jonathan, introduced himself. And as he introduced himself, I thought, wow, I feel like I've known you forever. Where have you been? And my whole body was lighting up and feeling rather strange but nice. And it was really nothing I'd ever experienced before, put it that way.
Well,
okay.
Well, let me ask a quick
Mark.
question. I'm sorry. Because 38 years old, that's fairly later in life to start all of a sudden having these types of abilities. Did you have any inkling that you had any kind of gifts when you were much younger, or was it was just something that suddenly bloomed after your father passed?
Well, my father was still alive at that time. He passed in 2016, but he'd been a physical medium in the 80s right up until around 1998. Well, when this started with me, it was 2005 it started with me. But previously to that, I'd always been interested. I didn't know much about trance mediumship, but I'd always been interested in the afterlife. So I'd quite often photograph orbs on my mobile phone, and being very interested in trying to communicate with them, just knowing that they were there. But as a child, no, nothing. A lot of people say, "Oh, it started when I was a child, I'd see spirit, this, that and the other." But nothing with me, not at all. I think once when I was 14, I felt somebody sit on the end of my bed.
Yeah.
When I was in the children's home. So shortly after that, I was fostered. So I suppose they came to me and said to me, "Well, you know, you're going to go to a new life now."
Mm-hmm.
And they were letting me know that everything's going to be all right. But I didn't know, you see, because I had no idea about that sort of thing then.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So when you were in the hotel room, right, trying to contact your father-in-law, and you let out this voice. Was it your father-in-law?
Yeah, because he just said, I heard him say, "Son, I tried to love you." So what that was all about, I don't know, because he obviously did love his son, but that was what he said.
Yeah.
And the kids couldn't understand what he was saying. I suppose to their ears, it came out as some sort of just weird noise, but to me, I didn't know what he was saying.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So what are you doing with yourself now, Elaine?
Well,
what's going on in your life?
Spiritual art, which started in 2014 after a regression. And I've been doing paintings for people, selling them, and they've been going to all places, America, Finland, and all places around the world.
Oh, that's good.
So, I'm still doing that, which is quite a passion of mine now. Once I started, that was it. I got kind of addicted to it. So it was something I always liked as a child anyway, colouring in, like you do.
Yeah.
But now it's a lifelong thing, I suppose. It started off as just a small thing and it grew after a while.
Yeah. Well, you're very talented. You are. I've seen some of them on Facebook. They're absolutely beautiful.
Oh.
But also, what about the churches? Are you doing churches or?
I do halls. My son now has started getting involved. He organises a few events for us. And this will be our third one on the 7th of March in London.
Yeah.
So he's organised that with his partner. So then the family is sort of getting involved a little bit and trying to put the word out there. A friend of mine, he made a website for us. So everyone's sort of pitched in and helped.
It's growing, isn't it? Everything's growing around you. What about this in London? Where is this going to be?
This is going to be I think it's in the artwork classrooms in London on the 7th of March.
Whereabouts are they?
Now, that's all.
Doing a bit of promotion here, darling.
Sorry?
We're doing a bit of promotion here.
Oh, bless you. No, this is all on the website. Now, the website, ElaineThorpe.com, that's what the website's called. Yeah. And it's on my Facebook page as well, which is Elaine Thorpe.
Yeah, that's Thorpe with an E, by the way, people.
Yeah, that's right. There's two different types in there, one without the E.
Yeah. So they can find out from ElaineThorpe.com on your website where exactly you're going to be on the 7th of March.
That's right. And it's on Twitter as well.
It's on Twitter too. Okay, lovely. Right, so is Jonathan about?
Jonathan's always about, I think.
Well, but before we bring...
I've been reading before I joined you, so...
Well, before... I'm sorry, Elaine. I hate Skype. I hate the delays we get. Before we bring Jonathan in, I was wondering again for our new listeners if we can explain a little bit about who Jonathan is.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly. He's my spirit guide. We all have spirit guides. We all have guardian angels, which I found out from another medium. We all have those that protect us throughout life. But the spirit guide is there for you all of your life, from birth until death. They are there and beyond.
Okay, and Jonathan lived in the times of the Victorians, didn't he?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Since we started, I've asked him to send me a lot of signs, which he has done. He has sent me a lot of signs. He sent me his name on the side of an articulated lorry going down the motorway. Yeah. Jonathan in huge letters. And it was spelt the same way as well. And he showed me his surname, Hunter. I'd travel into London. 3 times I've travelled into London. His name's come up. The surname, which is Hunter. And if you ask them to send you signs, they will work on doing that. So he really has worked hard to help me to believe and to trust that he is there. So, yeah, he lived in Victorian times in Islington in London. Place Highbury, I think. But he told us in the group previously, to my knowledge, he told us that he was married in St Mary's Church in Islington.
Yeah.
So he said to the group, our private circle group, he said the church was bombed in the Second World War.
Mm.
And he said part of it remained and then the rest of it was bombed and it was all a mess. So I thought, this is cool, I'll research it on the internet. And when I went onto the internet, much to my amazement, there I found photographs of it bombed in the Second World War with the rest of it remaining, just as he'd said.
Yeah. You know what you want to do, Elaine? You want to do his family tree.
I'd like to, but, it's just where to begin. I found it very difficult to find birth certificates and things. With the Indian guys, you can quite normally find them somewhere on the internet, but with Victorians and things like that, it seems to be more difficult. So then years ago, I was phoning churches and where he'd been, and then they said, well, because of the situation, certain bodies were exhumed there and buried in other churchyards and things because of the bombing or something to do with that, he was saying. But it was, somebody said, you can go to the archives and have a look through there.
Mm. Well, if you can get a rough date of when he was born, you can start a family tree. I've been doing my family.
Yeah, my son's done our family actually, and quite a lot's come to light there. But it would be very interesting to know who his descendants are.
Yeah.
And they'd probably think I was a nutcase if I contacted them. But
no, but it's even more interesting to go back further back from him. Start at Jonathan and then his father and his mother and all that sort of thing. And what you find out is absolutely unbelievable,
I know, yeah. We did. He said his middle name was James. And so the only one we found was a John James Hunter, which was in a very narrow column. They wrote their names in very narrow columns in the record of the births and deaths and that.
Yeah.
And so it only fitted in the column as not Jonathan Hunter, but John James Hunter.
Yeah.
And so we looked at that, but then the parents didn't match up. But that was around about the time he was born in September. 1845, and that's what we found. So, and then that led me to wondering, well, was he adopted into a rich family, which a lot of their sort of things went on in those days, but I wasn't really sure. He didn't seem to say that he was. So it was a bit sort of a mishmash of information, but he said, well, rather than look for that, trust me, and I will lead you to things.
Yeah.
Rather than craving to find me, just trust me and I will lead you to things and I will show you signs. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm giving up on that side of it. I'm just going to trust and let him do what he needs to do. And if he wants to find him, I will, But that was the nearest we got. And I thought, well, that is quite amazing in itself. But the only thing that was wrong was the parents' names weren't fitting. And that's what led me to think, well, was he adopted? And then it was all confusion. So I thought, right, I'm just going to have to leave it. But then St Mary's Church came up, and that just blew me away totally, because that was the first piece of the puzzle, that he'd actually got married in that church, and he knew about it being bombed. And then he sent me another sign. He said he was born in 1845. Well, just up the road from that church on the right-hand side was a huge building. And I looked right up to the top of it without thinking about it. And what should be the date on there? 1845, that it was built. That was the year of my birth.
Well, that's synchronicity for you.
Wow.
Blows you away.
So much. And,
so do you need to prepare?
Well,
do you want to take a couple of minutes out while we sit quiet?
Yes. Are you okay with music going on while I prepare?
Yeah. Any way you can, whatever makes you relaxed enough to get into the zone.
Yeah, that's fine. I do like music. Music is my life.
All right.
I wake up to music. I go to bed to music. Simple as that, We'll put it on, and hopefully everyone will be able to hear it. It goes on for about 3 minutes 20. Is that all right?
Okay. Well, it'll stop after that, won't it?
Yeah, it'll stop. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So if everyone could be patient with us for 3 minutes 20 seconds.
Good evening.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hello to you, my dear.
Do you remember us? You've been on our show as a guest before.
Yes, I do.
You do? Oh,
Yes.
Well, it's lovely to have you again.
I thank you, yes.
And how are you?
I'm nothing other than fine, thank you.
Oh, that's very good. So, Jonathan, where am I? What sort of things am I going to ask you? I don't know. You grew up in Victorian times in London.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's correct. So you were around at the time of Jack the Ripper.
Oh, goodness me, yes.
Can you remember and tell us what it was like for people then, what the atmosphere in London was like?
Well, I must say that it was very uneasy amongst certain people. They would not go out of a night time. Of course, the ladies would remain indoors, but you have the ladies that were ladies of the night, we used to call them.
Mm-hmm.
It is something of a racket of prostitution, you see. And he didn't seem to like them very much. And so he was trying to get rid of them all, you see, because he had somewhat of a hatred against them. And so a lot of them would go missing, be murdered. And so, therefore, it would come up in the evening newspaper, you see, and the London boys would advertise the newspaper and shout out about the most height of news, and that would come up there, you see. We didn't have televisions like you have today, so we would rely on the young men to call out about the height of the news, and then this came up about the Jack Ripper, you see.
Oh, I see.
And so this is what was going on in those times. But of course, ladies would not really go out at night, and unless they were with a gentleman, of course, to protect them. But you had this prostitution going on, and this is where he was making himself known. Eventually, he was found and tried for his criminality. But yes.
He was? He was actually found and tried?
I do believe so.
So, I wonder what his name was.
Well, I didn't ever get to find out that, but...
Yeah, because it's one of the biggest mysteries, murder mysteries of today.
Yes,
still existing in this country. Sorry?
I do believe that somebody was brought to justice, yes. Maybe they got the wrong one, my dear, but I do believe that somebody was caught.
Yeah, or otherwise, maybe he was caught, but he was tried for something totally different other than the murders because they didn't connect the murders with him.
Oh, yes. He had a very good way of trying to cover things up and cover his tracks, you see.
Yeah.
But in those days, of course, you didn't have the forensics like you have today.
No.
Had been in today's time, he wouldn't have got away with so easily at that point in time. But there were other things that they tried to put upon him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My grandfather was born in 1888.
Yes.
Which was the year that it all started, wasn't it? The murders.
Yes.
That's how I always remember my grandfather's, when my grandfather was born, because it was the year that the Jack the Ripper murders started.
Yes.
But, you know, I was...
Until 1891, you see.
Yeah. It's just that I was wondering, you know, I can imagine what it was like in London at that time.
Yes, it was a very uneasy time for everybody to hear of such terrible atrocities.
Irene, for all you know, you were there.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I was, yeah. You never know.
You never
in
know.
Another lifetime.
Yes, I do believe that one of Elaine's distant relatives were in the same place that I lived, yes.
Yes?
Oh.
And you lived in Islington, I believe.
Yes, and he lived in Islington as well, my dear, yes.
Oh.
But I didn't know him, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a while since we've talked with you, and just so for people who are listening to the show, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you were in that lifetime. What was your trade, or what did you do for business?
Well, my father had built a business, you see. And this involved hiring out a coach and horse, or carriage and horse, to the gentry, and to the more lower class of people as well that could afford it enough to be able to ride around in a cart. So you see, the business was built up from little to large, in which case we were able to live a good life. And that came about from a young age, that I was at a young age. And I was born in Islington in London in 1845. But yes, we had a good life, a plentiful life, and we worked hard for it. Or at least my father did, you see, until I was old enough to be able to join in with the business. And as an eventuality, I would do somewhat of paperwork before we had somebody to deal with that as well. But I had a good life, yes. Although be it short, I did many things in the time that I was here upon the earth.
So the equivalent of that today, you'd be designing cars, more
Yes.
than likely.
Yes. Yes.
Now, when you were living during that time, did you know Elaine when she was living in that time?
Yes. Her name was Mary Ann Ellsworth. She came with her aunt from the north into London to find work. And a lot of people would come from the north to find work in London, you see, and from many other parts as well. But London was the main place for looking for work if they were living in a poor place. So she came into London and she was employed as a maid. And that is where I came to meet her.
Oh.
I could not have much of a relationship, but there was a very, very deep connection between the two of us, which I couldn't even begin to understand with my Christian values. Of course, there was something of a spiritual nature that I couldn't quite understand.
So you had an attraction to her?
Yes, this was a soul recognition, so to speak, as I understand it now, but I didn't then.
Does that understanding that you and Elaine have shared possibly many lifetimes together?
Yes, that is right, yes.
Now,
it's a bit like me and you, Mark.
That we're aware of.
Yeah, 83, the last count, according to that lady that we interviewed last week. 83 lives together, Jonathan.
Yes, many souls live many lives together, and some will have a very powerful recognition of that particular person that they meet in the most modern of lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just curious. I'm going to ask some odd questions here, Jonathan. But how old were you when you died in that lifetime?
45, yes.
Or 45.
due to turn 46, but unfortunately, I passed with a massive heart attack.
Oh, no. Yes, I've had family members that have gone the same way. But in that time, up till now, have you reincarnated between that time and now? Have you lived before in this in-between period?
I have lived previously to that lifetime yes.
But what I'm asking is, after that lifetime up to what we would consider this modern time, did you have any other incarnations, or have you been in spirit form since you passed away back in that lifetime?
Yes,
Jonathan?
I have been in spirit since the Victorian times, yes.
Do you think that you would ever reincarnate here again?
If there was a need for me to reincarnate, then I would. But at the present time, I am guide to Elaine.
I've got a question for you, Jonathan. It was a friend of mine asked me to ask you. And he said, do you know what kind of people Charles Dickens, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and William Makepeace Thackeray were personally? Do you know what they were like?
I did not know them personally.
Oh, you didn't know them?
No, I didn't. I just went about daily life being an ordinary gentleman. And not mixed with too many people, apart from the clientele that we were looking to, yes.
Oh, I see. Well, that answers his question. I think what he meant was, did you follow their work, or what did you make of them? You know, what was your idea of what these people were like? I think that's what he meant.
I didn't really have much interest in that sort of thing. I'd like to read a book or two, but I wasn't really interested much in what other people were doing. But I must say some of the people of that time were very poignant, and I was pleased that they were, but I didn't have much of an occasion to sit down and do much with the work that I was doing.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. You got something else, Mark?
Yes. The whole concept of, with trance channeling, Elaine being able to have you come through, fascinates me to no end. And I'm especially intrigued with Elaine, and because unlike most trance channelers, I've always found your case fascinating in how her voice changes to yours so completely, and I've never heard that before. So I find that very interesting.
Yes, it did take me somewhat of a practice over a period of years to be able to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's you that actually has the control to do that, not Elaine, isn't it?
Well, Elaine is setting her mind back into a self-hypnosis state, whereby she will relax and then allow me to step into her energy. And that energy is expansive enough for me to be able to step in and to manipulate it. Yeah. So everything that we are saying is from a consciousness, from a thought. And that thought then becomes a physical voice when we are able to blend enough with the energy to bring it through. So the human voice is something that we use as a sort of a direct voice term to speak to you in terms that you could hear it.
Now, is Elaine aware, or does she have conscious memories of these events? Like us talking here now, will she remember this?
Well, she can hear you, yes, and she can hear me speaking, but she does not know what I'm going to say next. But I would say that some of it she will remember, and she will forget perhaps little bits that are rather like a long conversation, that you forget things. So, yes, she will not remember every single detail of it.
And why did you choose to speak through Elaine like this, to be able to talk with people? What was your motivation in doing so?
Well, my motivation in doing so, sir, was to bring about the light to the earth of the spiritual awakening, and also to give comfort and healing to others, letting them know that their loved ones had made the transition to the other side into a much better place in the way of less pain and suffering. There isn't any here, of course, but that is the message that we want to get across.
Now, what's very interesting is in the time that you lived was a very spiritual age, and the spiritualist movement in the latter half of the 19th century, going into the early 20th century, was very, very popular. And then things changed. I almost blame it on the Industrial Revolution when we started turning away from these other types of spiritual concepts. More strict religious concepts took hold, as well as science and scientific concepts where people just would not believe in this sort of thing. So those types of spiritual concepts almost went underground for a number of years and are now just coming back into the light.
Yes, with somewhat of religion about it those days. It was Sunday church, you see. Of course, I would go with my mother as a boy, and then as an adult I would go as a sort of tradition. So many years of tradition where that sort of regime was concerned. But spirituality was mostly home circles, because they would see it as somewhat of a criminal activity if information was being given that they saw as somewhat as truth, but how would they know about it? Were they spies? You see, in the case of the Lady Helen Duncan in later times. But that was at a later time than what it was when I was around. But I would say a lot of these ladies would get together home circles where there were mediums of a physical nature. So a lot of this physical mediumship went on for the late 1800s and during the 1900s, right into the 1950s and 60s and so on. But yes, it was much hidden in the cupboard, so to speak, in the way of nobody really got to know about it publicly, because it was taboo subject in the way of that sort of thing. The Christian society, the Catholic society, and other religions were about in those times, but they were more what you call controlled religions.
They still are.
Somewhat of a tradition rather than reality. And I will say to you that spiritualism came back very much so in the latter years of the sort of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, that sort of time. But it is coming to your world much more these days with your technology. We are able to get the message across, and people are starting to awaken. They are starting to realize truth. You see, and truth is spirituality. Truth is the real, the normal. It will become the normal for many before long.
Well, that's what the wonderful part of technology, like what we're doing right now with this radio show, being able to talk with you and broadcast it so that hundreds, if not hopefully thousands of people are able to hear your words and listen to you and hear your message.
I would like to spread the message across the world, sir, that everything that we do here is real.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Well, you are definitely spreading the message across the world, I can tell you that.
And they even have to travel to do so. Isn't that wonderful?
It is wonderful, isn't it? Can you tell... Well, we were talking to Elaine earlier on, and she was saying about everybody's got spirit guides. Now, most people that come on the radio, they've either got Red Indians or they've got someone famous or whatever. Can you tell what spirit guide a person's got? Can you tell what spirit guide I have? Or Mark?
Yes, with many I'm able to see the spirit guide, you see. And it is quite common for the Indians to make themselves known, because they don't always stick to one person on the earth. They will maybe, in the way of silver birch, spread himself about a bit. But I would say that the Indians were a very spiritual race. and of course there were the Mayans too, and the originals. They were also very spiritual, and the Egyptians, and then you got the Tibetan monks. You see, so and even the monks of the monasteries, they're all very spiritual. So that's why a lot of them put themselves with these mediums, because they are seen as the most common of nations that were spiritually minded, you see.
I see, yeah.
Very often get the Christian society coming across and being that way, but when they go to spirit, all of that changes.
Mm-hmm.
Then they want to connect with the people of the earth. But spirit guides are sometimes just people that have had ordinary existences, nothing of a famous reality there. They have had a life much like yourselves in previous times, and they will want to be spiritually connected to that particular human being that they had spent many other lifetimes with. And you do what you make a pact that you are going to be the spirit guide to that particular person in their incarnation.
Yeah.
So there is usually a deep connection between your guide and you from other lifetimes, you see, and you will know each other on a soul level very well.
Well, I was just wondering who my spirit guide was. You know,
I say to you that there is an ordinary gentleman there with you.
Oh, that would be me. That would be me.
You cannot be a spirit guide. You are in an incarnation, but a guide is a friend, you see. But I want to say that there is also another helper with you that has recently come into play, and her name is Molly, you see.
Molly?
Yes, but your spirit guide is a gentleman there, and he is an Indian. Yes, he is an Indian.
I've just lost my mother a couple of years ago. She went through a terrible death. And her name was Mary.
She is always with you, and she is saying that I am absolutely ecstatically happy in heaven, away from that physical place that I was in at the time. Now, when she goes to herself, she is going to a state of illness there that she went through that seemed to go on and then become very suddenly worse. Would you understand?
I do understand, because she had a stroke which left her paralyzed, and she was in a nursing home for a year. She had no core body strength or anything. All she could do was move one hand and her eyes.
But her eyes said it all, didn't they, my dear?
Yeah, they did.
She spoke to you through her eyes. You see, that is consciousness. Consciousness is very, very powerful. And everything is said through the eyes. Emotion are the eyes.
Yeah. So what you've said, you know, the fact that she had a long death and everything, yeah, she did. And she was in this physical place, which was not very, you know, which she would never have wanted to be there, never. This nursing home.
She was a very independent woman. Yes. And she would say to you, well, I don't intend to go into a home when I get elderly, but you see,
yeah, she did.
always know the soul's plan. It is somewhat of an amnesia state where that is concerned. Unfortunately, she was to have several previous strokes to that in the way of minor strokes that she managed to overcome, but then she had this massive stroke there that was leaving her perfectly disabled.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So she's okay then?
She is absolutely free, yes. There is no physical pain or suffering in that nature on the other side, my dear, because you don't have a physical body anymore. It's only the physical that is going to be in pain or suffering in any way, if it is going to be. But it was the soul's choice to help her to pass over to the other side. And in the soul's recognition of that illness, the soul knew that it would not be for long, although the physical side of it seemed like forever.
Yeah, it did. Even for us, it seemed like forever. Just went on and on and on. I think it was over a year.
Yes, I do believe it was about, I would say about a year and a half, or almost that, around about 14 to 15 months of that.
Yeah, it was a long time. Very much a long time.
She is happy now, my dear, and she wants you to be happy for her. And she is saying, well, I expect my daughter would think that it was a good release for me, because it was.
I did tell her if she wanted to go.
Yes. And she said, I heard what you said. I still have my hearing. I still would look at you with smiling eyes.
Yeah.
You used to talk to me, and then you would be lost for words, and you would start crying.
Yeah, I think we were all like that.
Yeah.
Whole family.
Yes. She is mentioning a Deborah.
Deborah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Debbie, she's saying.
Debbie. It rings a bell, but I can't place it.
Well, she's talking about something new with the show, you see.
Oh, what, this show?
Yes, she's saying you're going to have a Debbie coming on there soon. She is a medium.
Oh, are we? Wow.
I'll have to check the calendar. I'm not sure about that one yet.
Well, you will be soon, you see, because
it could be a future guest.
Yes. What I say comes true, my dear.
Yeah. We are future guest, Debbie.
Oh.
And we will remember you, Jonathan, when we do find Debbie, or when Debbie comes to us.
I predict many things, yes.
And what about this disease that's spreading around at the moment?
Yes, I thought that you were going to ask about that. Many do.
Well, it's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yes, of course. But previously, you may not have heard, but I was speaking previously, quite a while back, about the mass exodus.
No, I didn't know.
Well, the mass exodus would be about all of this, that is going on now. And it would be many people passing through disease and disaster, but mainly disease. But it doesn't mean to say that the earth is going to be completely wiped out. That is not true. And then I said that alongside that would come the mass awakening, you see. And that is very, very close. I must say that it is, and we are very excited about that. That is going to be around the spring equinox. So you see, with all of this going on, there will be much deeper thinking with people about the spiritual awakening. But yes, your disease, you are going back to that. I would say that it may get worse before it will get better. In fact, it will get worse before it gets better, and there will be more people that are going to pass with it. But, I would say that strong people that look after their health will perhaps remain healthy and find that it is only minor with them. But it is trying to prevent the spread of it on your earth, of course. But if you look back through other times, you had the plague, you had all of your mass diseases that humankind has always managed to overcome. So you will overcome this as much as overcoming the diseases that millions have passed with in previous times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, you had your 1900s with the influenza, the passing of many thousands passed with that, didn't they?
That's right, yeah. And then you had TB.
No information about that as to what you have today. You see, you have your mass media, don't you? You have all of that. Well, they didn't have any of that so much in those times. So you are hearing a lot more about these things than what would have previously been heard in those particular times. You have your technology, and everybody gets to hear about everything now, whereas they wouldn't have done before.
Yeah.
It would only be a brief thing on the television or whatever it was to be, but a lot of it went unnoticed, unheard. So you are very lucky in the way that you are not so misinformed now. You are getting along with communicating with each other.
Well,
So,
I wouldn't exactly say we aren't being misinformed. And I'm sorry if I sound a little cynical, because our media does have a tendency to push the fear factor and get people riled up just for ratings.
Yes, I will say that they are wanting to cling on to a piece of information. Do you see what I mean? They are wanting to cling on to the piece of information because they have run out of other information.
Yeah.
And the information that they don't see as important will go into the background, but there are many other things going on in the world that you may not know about. But
That's
it's
true.
a disaster, but it doesn't get heard about because they are prioritizing the information. But I would say, do go about your daily life, but be precautionary about it. Don't let it drown your life, and you have to hide away somewhat. Everybody has to carry on in some sort of manner, don't they? But it is looking to your health. Look after your health and keep your health strong and eat well. So I would say if you've got good inner strength, you will stand good stead if you are going to suffer with something like that.
Okay. Well, that's great news.
Well, you mentioned something, Jonathan, about this mass awakening as soon as the spring equinox. That's literally right around the corner here.
Yes, it is. You see, I explained to the people that these two were going to run alongside each other, a little bit like railway tracks. You got one on one side, one on the other. But this is massive. It is absolutely massive. And I would say that your social media, as you call it, will help to boost that. Of course, it is already happening, but it is going to happen on a much larger scale. And I will say to you, you will know about it. People will feel it. You see, the Earth is very much... you would think it was in turmoil, but it has been doing all of this for many hundreds of years, but it is becoming more prevalent. You see. So this was particularly planned in the way of the heavens. You see, they know all about all of this that is going on. But they say that mankind is not going to be wiped out. People will still live upon the earth. Babies will still be born to the earth, and atrocities will still happen. But they are coming with greater velocity, you see.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
How will this transition, this awakening, will it take place over a longer period of time? This is just the beginning. Or are you talking about something that's going to happen fairly quickly?
I think that you will find that there is going to be somewhat of a huge burst of energy. And I'm not talking a little place here. I am talking something massive. I am speaking about the people of the world coming together in many of these very spiritual places, praying for the world, praying for the people, awakening themselves, letting go of many, many old fears and traumas from past lives, from this life. It's going to be on a massive scale. You see, but you're all going to come together in different parts of the world to feel it, to understand it, to know it, and to perhaps experience somewhat of a feeling of vibration from it. There's a huge vibration that is going to go over the earth. Yeah, and yes, I will tell you now that, like I predicted the mass exodus, we knew about it anyway, all of the Spirit do, and many of the other guys are explaining about this situation here, but they're also knowing about this mass awakening. We all know about it. People of the earth have been told about it. So you see, it's a huge thing. And a lot of people of the Christian society would say, well, yes, Jesus is going to come out of the skies, but he is going to be in your hearts, you see, and your vibrations are going to raise somewhat.
Very interesting.
All of this will come about. Like this mass exodus has come about, yes, it is very prevalent. And it is not only I as a soul that have told you, others have mentioned it in somewhat of a perhaps different description, but they will know about it.
Well, it's going to be definitely interesting times, and it already has been. And with this year particularly, with all the changes we've seen going on in the world, I'd be very, very openly curious to see how this transpires.
Well, many of these old souls, even in young people, are coming together as a society and bringing all of the others together and bringing them to the light, to the truth. And all of the people that have lied and done terrible things are being brought to the light, to the truth. You see, it's like a sediment that comes to the top. And it has to be more of what you call of getting worse before it gets better. You see, there will be a wash of peace over your world. But of course, negative runs alongside positive for the greater good. But it got out of kilter. But I will say to you that this mass awakening is going to affect many.
Well, let's definitely see how this is going to play out. I'm personally looking forward to it.
Oh, it is something to look forward to. It is mighty, I will tell you.
No.
I'm even bracing myself for the happiness and the joy that it will bring everybody, and here on the other side as well.
Now, Jonathan, I know Elaine mentioned that she wanted to keep this shorter to an hour, so we want to let you go. But do you have any last words for us and for our listeners before you go?
Well, I would say we are going to let you know that we are around. We're not here to make you afraid. We're here to love you. And we are here to let you know that this awakening is all real. It's all true. And you are all going to find out about it in some way or another. You may feel it as different experiences, but you will know that it is something that you are not normally being habitual with. Would you understand? So I would say that look forward to the better that is to come. And I think that your world is going to be very traumatic over the next 6 years. You know, a lot of things will be going on, a lot of protests and things, and a lot of people coming out of the woodwork to put their point across. So you see, it's going to be a little bit traumatic, but this awakening in amongst it all is really going to make a difference.
Good.
There are old souls coming to your world to make a difference, and there are old souls in your world that are already making a difference.
Good.
That's interesting. So,
well,
we've come to the end then. Jonathan, it's been a delight speaking to you again.
I must say I have enjoyed it, yes. I have much more to express in the near future, but I'm sure that I will explain it in greater detail.
Well, we'll definitely have you on again. Definitely have you on again. Because it's always nice to catch up with Elaine and see how she's keeping as well.
Yes. Bless her, she is doing very well.
Yes, good.
Developing nicely.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You are welcome. Yes, God bless you both.
Okay, can you give us back to Elaine now?
Yes, most certainly. Yeah.
Okay, bye, Jonathan.
Give her a moment, and she will be coming around.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Hello.
Hello, Elaine. Well, that was interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very enlightening as usual.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm just a bit vague at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit dozy, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Well, look. So we say it again. Elaine Thorpe with an E on the end .com is Elaine's website, and you can catch up with everything she's up to on there. And she also has a Facebook page and a Twitter account.
Yeah, that's right. I think my children deal with that. I don't know how to use Twitter. I mean, at my age, technology, I just do the basics, and that gets me through.
Yeah, you're like me. I'll let Mark deal with all the technical stuff.
Yeah, funny enough, Mark's called Johnson, and that was my name before I married. I was Johnson.
Oh, really?
Yeah? Ooh,
Yeah.
You might be related.
You never know, do you?
Yeah, well, there's a million of us out there.
Yeah. There's Johnson's quite a common name, but
Yes.
it's a good name.
Yes, it is. Well, Elaine, thank you very much for coming on, and it's been a delight, and we'll definitely will want to have you back on again here in the future. Jonathan says he has a lot more he wants to tell us.
Oh, that's lovely. And thank you very much for having me on tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, now you can go and get a cup of tea, Elaine.
Oh, yeah, good old British cup of tea. That wipes everything out, that does.
All right, well, thank you, and have a great evening.
And you, and enjoy the rest of your show.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot, Elaine. Bye.
Soon.
Yeah. Cheerio, love.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Well, that was very, very interesting, Irene. And it's always interesting when we have Elaine and Jonathan come on.
What was that?
That was my cell phone vibrating.
I thought it was a naughty noise, you know. I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah,
But over there, you got Trump. We got Trump over here.
yeah. I thought you were going to say it was a U.S. president.
Yeah, a U.S. president. Yeah, it was brilliant having them on. They're lovely people.
Yes, and
Even if Jonathan is from another world.
well, no, he's also from this world for a time too.
Yeah, but he's also in another world.
Currently,
Yes,
you know,
that's what I meant.
one where we will all be going to someday. And you know what? To hear him tell it, it might be sooner than later.
Yeah, that was a bit worrying, that.
When they start talking about mass exodus, you know, I think, okay, yeah, but
Right at a time where we've got, you know, coronavirus going around, yeah.
or an asteroid coming to hit us or anything else. But you know what? As he pointed out, it'll be mass, you know, love and light, and everything will be wonderful after that.
Yeah, oh, sweetie, yes.
Yes.
Mm.
So
Okay,
just ignore the death and dying part of it first, you know, the misery and despair, and then, you know, we'll get past that and it'll all be love and light.
Yeah, but he was right on about my mother.
Really?
Yeah,
I was going to ask you that, how accurate that was.
it was very accurate.
Huh. Well, I'll have to hit him up next time for something on me.
Yeah, I'll hit you up if you like.
Well, you always want to hit me up outside the head.
Yeah.
So on that note, why don't we bring in our second guests for tonight?
Yes. Yeah, guests, plural.
Plural. Do you want to introduce them?
Okay, tonight we've got with us Kerry Greenaway, Richard Clements, and Paul Rook from the Paranormal Concept Show, broadcasting on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
Good evening, everybody.
Guys. Good evening. Hello, guys.
Hello.
This is literally one of those times where the gang is all here.
So I tell you what it's like. It's like the old paranormal pub, isn't it, that we do?
Oh, yeah. Should I put the pub ambient sounds in the background, like we're all sitting down at the pub?
Yeah, you can if you like.
Clinking glasses and everything,
Yep,
right?
Yeah, down at the old cock and
faint
balls.
music playing in the background. Yes, we had our own pub called the Cock and Balls. BAWLS.
But the point is, there were so many inquiries from people wanting to know where the Cock and Balls was so they could go and visit it.
Oh, right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's obviously in my living room and Mark's.
Actually, we were talking about creating a franchise.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? We were going to have Cock and Balls all over the place.
I designed the pub sign and everything.
Yeah.
And that would have been interesting to see, yes.
Well, we'll have to. I still have it. I'll have to post it and send you a copy. We may have to do one of those shows again one day, Irene.
We are going to do one. I'm going to book one in.
Okay.
We will. Yeah, we will do one.
So
we've
anyway,
got to have a laugh. With the Cock and Balls, it helps you relax, doesn't it?
yes, we're sitting around having a pint and having a roundtable discussion about whatever we want.
That's it, yeah. And you can relax and you can have a drink and
some crisps.
As long as you don't start any trouble in there and start a fight, we were okay, weren't we? We didn't have any bother with any of the boys except those lot from Most Haunted magazine.
Oh, yes, they were the rowdy bunch.
Haunted magazine, should I say. Where did I get Most Haunted from? Blame me, all right. Okay, right.
So guys.
Go. We always do this.
Yes.
We either talk over each other or we argue. That's it.
All right. Well, I'll let you go first.
You can go. You can go.
Oh, I can. Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have a great.
For once. So you all are the co-hosts of the Paranormal Concept show, and you're debuting this week here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
Debuting, not debuting. Debuting.
Debuting. Tomato.
No, tomato.
So,
and potato.
Let's talk a little bit about yourselves and how the show came about, and a little bit about your backgrounds. So, who wants to go first?
Paul, go first.
I was gonna let Kerry go first.
No, off you go, Paul.
Hang on, is Richard still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, all right, Richard. I can't see you. That's all. Carry on.
I'm up there in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, I couldn't see you. I couldn't see your little icon thing, so I thought you'd gone. Okay, carry on. Who's going first, Paul?
Okay. What was it you wanted to know?
What did you want to know, Mark?
Well, I mean, a little bit about yourselves. You know, how did the show came together? A little bit about your backgrounds. I mean, your show is a show discussing, I think, all things paranormal. So what brought you into it? You know, are you investigators yourselves? I mean, just give us the rundown.
Okay. About 15 years ago, I started up my own paranormal team. I went from there to turn it into an events team. So I was doing paranormal investigations and events. I then went from there. I was given the opportunity to appear on another radio show that went out. That only lasted like six months before we moved on, and then we went to a network called Parasearch Radio. Then myself and Richard were like the founders of that. So we had like a meeting and everything, and then my particular show was I wanted to just discuss concepts and ideas in the paranormal field. So whether it be like aliens, UFOs, cryptozoology, I just love the whole subject of the paranormal. So we just banded around a few ideas, and the Paranormal Concept show came about because obviously it's about the paranormal and we talk about concepts. So we like to throw around ideas, and you know, we've come out with some really good ideas over the years. So that's sort of a very brief, quick thing on how I got into it.
So that's Paul done and over with.
Yep.
All right, who's going to be brave and cut next?
I'll take the forum next.
All right, you take the forum next.
I started in the spiritual field, working with crystals and minerals. Ran my own business for quite a while doing that, and that got me into the investigation field by using crystals and minerals within paranormal investigations. And I got interviewed on a podcast, and then they said, would you like a show? And that sort of the rest they say is history, because I then went to Parasearch, joined the Paranormal Concept show with Paul, and sort of went from there really. But I like the theory side. I don't really get out in the field that often these days, so I like the research side of things. So and I'll look at all sorts of things. I still do the crystals and minerals on the side. I do that very quietly, working in that way now. I don't put that out in the public so much, but I still work with crystals and minerals quite extensively. But yeah, that's how I got into the field and how I got into podcasting. And it's led me down so many different rabbit holes of research that you can start in one place and then end up somewhere completely different. And that's something Paul and I are really, really good at, is bouncing off each other in regards to, you know, talking about topics and concepts and how they fit and whether or not it is a good explanation or not, and you know, just exploring lots of different ways. And we cover so many different areas because of that, you know, from history to weird and wild ideas. And you know, like you said, we've looked into lots of different avenues that's under the umbrella of paranormal. It's a fascinating field that we both embrace in its entirety. So from the show they can expect all sorts of topics and ideas coming to the table, because we don't just stick to one area. We like to look at all sorts of areas and see where it leads us, basically. So, Richard, I'm handing it over to you now.
Oh, thank you very much, Kerry. Yes.
Yeah, come on, Richard.
Yeah, I've actually had an interest in the paranormal for many a year now, which actually sort of goes back to sort of like the mid-1970s, and it was always just a sort of like a sort of general sort of interest reading books and stuff like that. But my sort of scope in the paranormal was sort of quite broad, and even back then. But those were back in the days when you only really had sort of a very few books and and a library. And
I was going to say you'd have to go to the library to get it,
yes.
wouldn't you?
Remember them?
Yes, I do. I'm that old, I am.
Yeah, and I'm just interested in the stories of the paranormal. Sort of I used to sort of get any sort of snippet, magazine and articles, and what really sort of like got me interested was a Reader's Digest article. It was when the Amityville horror first hit the public, and that would have been...
I remember that. I remember when it was first coming out in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Back in the, what was it, 70s, wasn't it?
Yes, it would have been around about, I think it was about sort of 77 or something like that, or it quite possibly could have been earlier, but the Reader's Digest and serialised it.
Yeah, I tell you... Everybody, I worked for an organisation in London then, and everybody used to wait for that paper to come out to see what the next thing was in the paper about it.
That's right, and I actually read this, and it actually frightened the life out of me, even though sort of since then, it's been a bit sort of, but at the time, it absolutely frightened the life out of me, and I sort of took it from there, and I still had an interest, and this sort of carried on, and then sort of during the 80s and through the 80s, but my interest sort of really peaked again when the TV series Arthur C. Clarke and the Mysterious World.
Oh, yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
That was, one of the groundbreaking sort of TV series here in the UK. I suppose in America you would have had, I can't think of the one they had in America. It's the one with Dr. Spock in it.
Yeah, In Search of.
Yeah, it was sort of like the UK equivalent of that. It was quite a groundbreaking series, and that sort of really sort of kept the fire going. But sort of the normal life sort of took over, and you sort of sort of have to go out, sort of get married and stuff like that. And I actually moved over to Australia for a few years, and and I settled down over there with my wife. We had children, and then sort of it didn't work out, so we came back here. And
so you've got Aussie kids then, Richard?
Yes, yeah.
There you go, Australia. Australian children.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm on radio show. Okay.
They're talking.
And then I came back to the UK, and obviously had a bit more time on my hands, so I rekindled my interest in the paranormal.
Medium, she could only do
and
an
it was
hour,
around
so
about sort of that time, sort of a bit later, I started to sort of listen to a lot of podcasts, because podcasting was just sort of coming in, and there was sort of like, and that was sort of like a new area where there was quite a bit of paranormal content, and even back then. So there's shows coming up, so I used to listen to a lot of shows and stuff. And then I sort of discovered the station that Paul and Kerry used to be on. Yeah. And I started to listen to those guys, and they had an interactive chat room. So I used to interact, and you become friends on Facebook through that. And it sort of really carried on from there, and sort of circumstances sort of changed for Paul originally, and he got in contact with me, and we started off Parasearch off the back of that, and then we got Kerry involved, and it sort of went along for about 3 years, and we sort of so now we've sort of moved on, and Paul's
you definitely
show.
moved on.
Oh yeah, tell us about it. And Paul's show and the Paranormal Concept we decided to bring over here and sort of really give it a good airing.
So are you excited to be with us?
Oh yes. But, we've had a few messages flying around, sort of like we've got our own little group, and we've had a few messages flying around, and I think Kerry's telling me and Paul to calm down a lot. But,
what sort of messages?
Sort of just,
You don't want to go with them. She's a bitch. Yeah?
No, nothing like that.
Well, she is.
But we're having a blast since we've come over. It's and even in the last week, we sort of really put our heads down, and it's good for finally the three of us to be sort of a lot closer together now, and now sort of working towards a common goal. It's just like the Paranormal Concept show now, and we've got a new network, and it's a whole new canvas for us to expand and bring to a whole new audience and what we have to offer, and hopefully they will enjoy it.
Well,
I'm sure everyone will.
We can sympathize because we had our own show. We started off with just Paranormal UK, and we started off...
Didn't we run Unknown Origins first?
Well, I had Unknown Origins Radio go for about 5 years. You came on the last year of that show, and then we kind of retired it, and then came up with Paranormal UK because we wanted to do something more with a European, British, international slant, because there's so many American paranormal shows, and they're a dime a dozen. And we really wanted to come into the UK market. And, but, we had been on a few stations over here too, and they all kind of came and went until Irene says, let's form our own, which is what we did. And then surprisingly, people wanted to come on board. So we've been going strong now for over 2 years now, I think, right? Going on 3?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I've certainly been listening to some of your other shows over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sort of, really am enjoying the content you guys have managed to put together.
Yeah, we got some good shows. Some of them have started totally from scratch, which me and Mark developed, came up with the ideas, and found the appropriate people that we thought would make good radio hosts, and their shows are still with us and going strong, aren't they? The Kinsellas, the Peep Show.
Yeah, yes.
Twin Souls.
Yep.
Yeah. All started from scratch by us, and, now, of course, they're handed over the hosts. They belong to the host now, these shows, as far as we're concerned. But we found the right people for the shows, which was what we wanted.
Well, and plus,
which I think is...
When you take an idea for a show and then you put it into practice, you build it from literally nothing. This being I'm talking as a network now, we get ideas. Okay, we wanted an all-female show, so we brought out Paradivas, found the radio host for the Paradivas show, and one thing or another. Then, like Twin Souls, we found twins for Twin Souls, and one thing or another. And, it's just absolutely brilliant to see a show come from birth and grow, which these shows have.
Well, yes, this is one of the good things, sort of like being involved in sort of like radio and stuff, sort of being involved in the grassroots and stuff, it gives you a sense of sort of like achievement when you have sort of built as sort of like a brand up and stuff like that, and me, Paul and Kerry do actually realise how difficult it is. Yeah,
it's not easy. I've got to admit, it is not easy at all.
It's one thing to build a show, but then it's also to build that audience for the show.
Yeah.
And I mean,
hard work.
I remember when I first started Unknown Origins Radio, we started off with 2 or 3 listeners, then up to 25, and then we'd get excited if 100 people were listening. And now we have, especially
thousands.
with the podcast formats and the repeats, we have thousands of listeners now all across the world. We're able to track. In fact, what's funny is on our station's website, we could track which countries are tuning in. And I think the one that tickled us the most was when North Korea was actually listening for a little bit.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
They still listen, though, don't they?
I haven't checked in a while, but who in North Korea, who's the only one with internet access?
Well, yeah, because the first time we had North Korea on, we had one listener, and then we had two coming out of North Korea. So, we know who it was because there was only one or two people that's got internet out there. So we had a good idea that old Kimmy was listening in. So we said to him, "Okay, Kimmy, this one's for you."
I like it, and give them a little dedication.
Yeah, but now we get these countries you've never even heard of them. Some of these countries, Mark,
or some of them like from all over the world. We get a lot from Australia, New Zealand.
Russia's big.
Russia's big. South Africa.
Yeah.
I would like to see Antarctica showed up just once.
Haven't they shown up yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, anybody know anybody in our Antarctica? Can you please tell them to tune into the Paranormal UK radio show?
Yes, they're sitting down there all bored with nothing to do. It's just frozen. Tune into our network.
And we'll say hello.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so with you lot, have any of you had a paranormal experience?
Well, Kerry.
I've had quite a few over the 15 years that I've been doing the investigations.
Yeah.
I think possibly the ones that stick out in my mind are like the ones at Shrewsbury Prison that I was talking about on the
show today.
That was a really good experience, and I've had had a few things happen that night that I can't explain. Are they paranormal? I don't know. I'm still sitting on the fence with those ones. I don't like to jump to conclusions, and I'm quite sceptical but open-minded with it. So yeah, I've had quite a few, but the prisons are the ones that are the most active that I've experienced.
And have you been scared?
No. Nothing.
Now listen to me, Paul. You said in that show that you saw something and you decided to go and join the group again.
Oh yeah, it wasn't scary. It made me jump because it's like, what the hell, But no, I mean it wasn't scary. It was like just took it in my own stride, and it's like, okay then, I'm going to go join the group.
You done the man bit, did you? You done the man bit.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, what about you, Kerry? Anything weird has ever happened to you?
Yeah, I've been thrown across the room before now by a spirit.
Ooh.
Got quite with the medium I was working with at the time. The situation was we was a small team private investigation, and we were trying to move a spirit over, and another spirit stepped in and stopped us from doing it. And I don't actually know what happened. Just 1 minute we were in the middle of this intense exchange with these spirits, and the next thing we're both across the room, and it's been thrown across the room, and the medium himself got quite badly hurt, so we actually had to stop what we were doing and get him sorted. We had to get him some medical attention because it was quite bad. He had a deep gash down his back because as he was thrown back he hit a cabinet. And so he had quite a deep gash down his back, and we left the location, and we did want to go back, but the location stopped us from going back after that. So I think that was probably the most intense investigation I've done. But I've experienced plenty of other smaller, what I would class as like, footsteps and noises and, strange experiences on investigations, but nothing quite as intense as that one. And even now, I've only got the audio for it, but when I listen back to the audio, now I know a lot more. I still can't explain it, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because I know how it felt at the time. And it took me a little while after that to get my head around the experience. So it felt very violating at the time. Yeah, it's incredibly violating. It took me a little while to get over that. But that was the most intense experience I've had. I don't really want that one again. That did scare me. I'm not going to lie. That scared me.
Well, I tell you, Kerry, if it ever happens again, stick your hand up, palm out, right? Just say, don't go there because you'll be sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean you, that frigging works.
Well, now I know
enough energy behind it, it works.
See, now I know a lot more. I was at the very start of my spiritual investigation experience, so now I know a lot more, but at the time I was sort of going in completely naive. It was a really stupid thing to do, really. And but I was working with a more experienced medium, so you put your trust in them, and I think it took even him unawares. It was just one of those I listen to the audio now and I still can't explain that. I still can't get my head around that. Was it just because everyone says, did he pull you? No, he had his hand on my shoulder. He couldn't have pulled me to that force if he I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those experiences that I've had that I still can't explain. That's the most intense. But I had other experiences than that. I get quite a lot in my home, but that's probably more to do with the way I work. So,
well, it could be. I had footsteps come up the stairs last night, but I don't. Yeah, my attitude is I just don't care. And things come into the bedroom. And I just, like I said, I say, go away. I nearly said it, didn't I? I nearly dropped an F-bomb there, Mark. I say, go away.
Usually you say nap
sorry
off.
If you come too close to me. Sorry?
I say usually you say nap off.
Nap off, yeah, that's one of my favourites. Nap off. But this house is buzzing with them, so, I live with them. I've grown up with them, so I take no notice of them. My energy is just as strong as theirs, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, me and Paul did a show once. We were talking about, we call it the D word now, demons.
And, demons.
I know, right?
Something that we get in America, but not so much over here.
Anyway, every time we were talking about it on the show, something tech-wise would go wrong, or there'll be a big bang in the house. And it became a standing joke in the end, didn't it, Paul? Where it was like, So now it's the D word.
The D word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll mention that word with Kerry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody scratching
right.
at the door.
So, Richard.
Yes, I've seen what I believe to be a full-bodied apparition. Yes. I mean, I don't do half measures. It wasn't long after I got back from Australia in about 2005. I took my children for a day out at Dover Castle.
Oh yeah.
And we sort of went round the castle, had a great time. But then I took them to the bit right at the top of the cliffs where they have the World War II tunnels. It's called Hellfire Corner, and it is where the Royal Navy commanded its sort of fleet during World War II, and it was very instrumental in the evacuation of the British expeditionary force from Dunkirk. That's where that was all masterminded from. And they actually run guided tours, so you went into like a room, and then when enough people got in, a tour guide would come through and show you through. So we was going around these tunnels. There's lots of galleries and stuff, and lots of sort of wartime equipment, and it was just a normal sort of tour. This was this, that, and that was that. But then the guide took us to an end of a very long gallery, and we were standing down one end, and I was at the back with my two children, and the guide was sort of just talking, and then I heard a door open at the end of, and at the far end of the gallery, and I looked down, and the door opened, and a man came through wearing an RAF uniform, turned and just walked down the passageway, which was leading off to the side, and he must have been about sort of about 25, 30 feet long sort of gallery I was actually standing at, and I didn't actually sort of think much of it at the time, but when I was sort of thinking about it, because something just didn't seem right about it. It was a full body, you know, it was, and as far as I'm concerned, it was definitely someone, you know, it was the detail was correct and everything. But the thing that did look a bit odd is it looked, the colour, it looked like one of these 1950s Technicolor type. He was sort of in that sort of hue, if you know what I mean. If you watch these 1950 films, the colour is not sort of like true colour like you get on the high definition.
Well, most of those films were black and white, weren't they? And they added colour later to them.
And that just it was just that. It must have lasted for about sort of 5 seconds before he disappeared into what I assumed was a side tunnel. But you know, I'm one of these people. When things happen, I'm always very underwhelmed by when they happen. You know, because I think the anticipation, the anticipation is usually more, you know, and that's the scary part. But when something actually does happen, I'm usually not very impressed, you know. And that is probably, I've had a few other little bits and pieces sort of, but that is probably the main one.
Most memorable.
See, I've never seen an apparition, and I'm just curious, when you saw it, I know you said it had that 50s Technicolor look to it, but was it perfectly solid, or could you see through it? Or
yes, as far as from what I can remember back, perfectly solid. I mean, he was perfect in every way. You know, if it wasn't for this sort of slight, sort of, you know, odd sort of coloration, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid, and I didn't really. You know, I just sort of went, and that was it. I didn't sort of think there and then or shout out, "Oh, look, there's a ghost, because as far as I'm concerned, what was it? I do not know at the end of the day. You know, it's unexplained."
So Markle Farkle.
So when we're wrapped up here and get dressed and we can go.
What do you think of that?
Most excellent. You talking to me?
Yes, Markle Farkle.
No, I'm here.
Oh. So what do you think of that then? You haven't seen one, have you?
Nope, never have. I think
that can be organised, dear. That can be organised.
Well, send them my way.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, sort of, I wasn't actually going out looking. This wasn't part of an investigation. It was just, I was just going around my sort of daily sort of routine, just going out for a day with the kids. And my mind wasn't even thinking about anything like that. And it just happened.
That's how it normally happens, when you're not looking for it, when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when it normally happens. And you're right. It is a bit of a downer when it does happen, you know, but I think that's us, isn't it? We're typically British. You know, we're so laid back and one thing or another. There's only a very few that would actually start squealing and running around.
Oh, you mean like the Most Haunted crew?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not me, unfortunately.
See, you can have a drinking game, and you take a drink every time somebody screams in Most Haunted.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. And that'd be interesting.
Drunk as a skunk by the time it's finished, I tell you. Literally drunk as a skunk. But, you know, it's like I said earlier on, this house is absolutely buzzing. You would love to come and do an investigation in my house.
Well, is that an invite?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
There we go, guys.
If you don't mind the long trek over to Wales.
Yeah. It happens in the house, it happens outside the house, in the gardens, it happens on the drive. You know, all sorts of things happen here.
See, Irene has everything from ghosts in the house to UFOs in the valley to the Traymore, or what we call the Welsh Bigfoot in the hills. And then, of course, your invisible beings in the backyard.
Yeah, that's it. And something in the cupboard under the stairs, which I call a little goblin.
Oh, right. So
we do like to have a bit of a road trip. So
yeah.
I'm sure we'll have to say like that.
I'm sure we can make it up to Wales, can't we, Paul? We
definitely.
Usually sort of just skim the border as we sort of travel up to the Midlands, but we can nip across, I'm sure.
Well, where are you all from?
We are actually, we all live relatively close together. We're actually sort of in Essex, which is sort of Greater London.
That's where they got a funny accent from Essex. You know, I'm from South London, me.
Yeah, that's right. And and we're from Essex, and we all live within about 20 miles of each other. So that's another good thing, you know, sort of getting the paranormal concept, you know, sort of more down to just the show now, as opposed to having sort of a lot of other stuff going on in the background. You know, we can really concentrate on doing this now.
Mind you, I said I'm from South London. I can speak with a South London accent, but I can also speak with a Sussex accent because I was born in Sussex.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so, you know, I can do that upper class.
But can you speak with a Scottish accent with your Scottish background?
Oh, I've got Irish background as well, haven't I? Yeah, when I'm drunk.
Well, my background
Which
is...
isn't very often because I'm allergic to alcohol.
With my family, my heritage, I've got everything from English, Irish, Welsh, and I think some Scottish, so I call myself a Celtic mutt.
Celtic mutt? Mongrel.
Stole that from Bill.
No, well, I was born in England, the Scottish mother, Irish great-grandparents, right? Vikings great-grandparents on the English side, not on the Scottish side. And I live in Wales, so there you go. Anyone else? Celtic? Yeah?
Not that
I'm an outsider down here because I was born in England, but I've got as much Celtic blood running through me as a lot of the others that live down here.
Oh, I wouldn't know about myself. I know Clements is a French name. We are French Huguenots, but that's about it.
Oh. So how do you pronounce that in French? Clément. Clément.
Well, it's a funny thing because whenever I go to France and sort of like sign into a hotel or something, they say, you know, sort of, what's your name? You know, I goes, oh, it's Mr. Clements. They never question it. They always write it down, spell it correctly. They don't ask me, you know, it's not like you say Smith and they go, what? Yeah. Huh?
Is that with an E?
No, and they've always sort of, so it's obviously a common name over there, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, you other two, you got very, very uncommon names. Rook.
Rook. Yeah.
Are you related to a crow or something?
I
Rook.
really have no idea where that originates from. I've never really looked into my own.
You want to do it? It's got to be something. It's got to be something to do with the birds.
It has. Yeah, I would have thought it was something like that. Because there is a rookery, going back in time and that where they would have kept rooks. So maybe it is someone that used to look after the rooks. Yeah, it could well be.
That'd be interesting to find out. And Greenaway.
It's my married name, but it's actually a Romany. That's got a Romany roots. And my single name is Starling, like the bird.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, but I do believe starlings was something to do with bridge building. You know, the struts going up underneath the bridge is supposed to be called starlings. So I don't know, but I haven't looked into my heritage. But my family originate from York City.
Yeah.
Remember in Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster was Clarice Starling.
Yeah, she was, yeah. And when I was younger, the people said I looked like her. I don't see the likelihood, but definitely not now. Too many wrinkles.
I don't know what she looks like now.
Well, yeah, that's true.
She's a lot older now. Who knows what she looks like? So what else have you been doing then besides the radio show and your little jaunts and your crystals and your investigating? And you do a lot of research, don't you, Richard?
Well, myself, yes. I'm a great reader, actually, and this is sort of my sort of main sort of pastime, really. And I've got quite an extensive library at home. I've yet to do a proper inventory, but the others always laugh and sort of like joke because I've got about 2,000 books in my flat.
You've got a bloody library there, boy.
Yes, and not all paranormal, because one of my other passions is military history, and I, you know, and they can sort of complement each other quite well. You know, to have a good grounding in history in general is something, you know, that does come in quite handy in the paranormal field. So yes, so those are my two sort of main interests: the paranormal and the sort of military side, and sort of like, and yes, I'm thinking about it and getting round to do an inventory of my books and counting them, because I've actually got a wardrobe and I don't put clothes in my wardrobe. I've got books in it.
Yeah.
250, yeah.
Wow. Where do you put your clothes?
I've got a clothes rail.
He's just walking around naked. Who needs clothes? Yeah, he's doing a radio show.
Yeah, you never know what he's sitting there like, do we?
Yeah, and apart from that, you know, sort of, because the last sort of 3 years or so, like with the old station and stuff like that, you know, it's surprising on how much work and how much sort of, you know, time and headspace it can actually take up. But I'll have to find something else to do now. I've got a bit more spare time, and that's if, well, Kerry and Paul will let me. I don't know. Perhaps I'll take up fishing again. Who knows?
Yeah, that's an idea. And Paul.
Yep.
You run a what are they called?
Paranormal events team.
Yes.
Yep, I do. Phoenix Paranormal, that is. Basically, yeah, we just put on events and get the public to come and join us. But I run it slightly different to a ghost hunt, because I like to sort of educate people a little bit more about the paranormal and sort of give them the paranormal investigator experience as opposed to a ghost hunter.
Okay.
So I like them to experience what they can, but then look at explanations of what that could have been, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, that was a ghost of old Joe Bloggs, and you know, he had his head cut off or whatever down the road. So you know, we like to look into the reasoning why things happen.
Yeah. Well, you said that you've done a couple of prisons, but what other sort of places do you do? Manor houses?
Yep, we've done. There's so many manor houses. Saltmarsh Hall, I think, was the last one. We've done that one. We've done the Essex Regiment Museum in Chelmsford.
Yeah.
We've also done the Rifles Museum in where was it? Wiltshire, I think it is. You know, so we've gone all over the place. So yeah, but I also obviously go out when I'm on holiday and things like that. I tend to look for places that I've not investigated, but I just want to visit. Like Bargham Castle, for example.
Oh, that's down the road from me.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. But I've been there and visited. That's a fantastic place, that one.
Oh, it's a beautiful staircase in there.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's absolutely wonderful. But, you know, there's still places that I haven't investigated yet that I would like to. We'll get around to it at some stage.
Okay, right. So, have you done people's houses?
Yes, we have been called to a few people's houses. Sometimes I mean, this is probably going to sound really harsh for some people, but I like to get a like a diary of experience, like what's happening at the house before I go in, and that tends to put a lot of people off. So, you know, if I'm going to do a private investigation, then I want a documentation at 2 weeks to see whether there is any patterns in what's occurring, whether or not, you know, we need to do a daytime investigation or a nighttime one, so we get to see patterns and things like that. You know, this is why I asked for that. And then, we'll go in, investigate. You know, we do it over a long period of time. We don't just do like a one-night investigation. So we can hit the investigation at random times if need be, and just see what we can get. And then once we know what we're dealing with, we can speak to the clients, and if they want it to be moved on, then I can get the relevant person to come in and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I'm not very, I haven't got any psychic ability whatsoever. I would rather just learn about what we got, research it, and then find someone that can actually move it on if that's what the client wants.
Yeah, I see. Now, crystals. They're pretty, aren't they, Kerry? I know
Yes, they're very pretty.
I know bugger all about them, except that they're very pretty. But I also know that with certain crystals, like with feng shui and all that, putting them in certain corners and certain directions brings peace and calmness to the house. Not my house, because it never works in my house, because I've got too many ghosts and too much paranormal activity, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's they aren't just pretty pieces of rock, as my lovely Paul says. He says you just like talk to rocks. Every single crystal will have its own specific energy signature, and you can work with that energy signature for.
How do you tell what energy signature? But do you tell because of what type of crystal it is?
That's a good indicator. They'll all have, so take amethyst, for example. It's a really great general crystal for most people to use. And I don't work in regards to healing crystals. In the healing side of things, I tend to work more on how it can impact your life. And the reason I sort of came to that conclusion because I saw the impact it had on my own life. So when you start working with them in a very close proximity, then you start realizing areas of your life will start having a very subtle but very definite impact on your life, and it hits 4 areas. You've got your spiritual, you've got your emotional, you've got your mental, and you've got your physical well-being. And if you get all those 4 areas into balance, then you're doing a lot better. And having suffered from various mental and emotional situations through the years, working with crystals really did help that, rather than turning to Western medicine. I'm not saying it's a cure-all, everybody. It's just, my belief system. And using crystal, various techniques like crystal gridding and things like that, it started to actually manifest things in my life. And so the power is beyond myself. Although I do feel the energy is a melding of energy between crystal and the person working with them. So you put your intention out there and you use that basically as an energy signal to the universe to sort of like get your message out there. It's that kind of concept. And that's when I moved into the paranormal field. I wanted to see if that technique, the crystal gridding technique, worked on locations, to see if it increased activity in locations. And when I've tried it in locations, we've definitely had a more active night. Some people could argue you get quiet nights, you get active nights. You don't know if it's the crystals that are doing it, but it does seem strange that when I'm working with crystals, we do seem to have more activity. But that's an ongoing research project, and I can't prove it because I can't prove that crystals do the job that I say they do. But it's a fascinating field in its own right. And I work incredibly closely with crystals and minerals in that way. So it's very, very interesting. And you talk about placement of crystals around your home. You do have to be very careful where you place certain crystals because, like you say, the energy flow between the house, throughout your home can be disrupted if you place the wrong crystal in the wrong place, and again, I've witnessed that happen too. And, talking to clients and stuff, they say, I've got this beautiful crystal cluster in my porchway. And I'm like, don't put it there. You're just making everything flow out. You want to flow in or block negative energy from coming in. You don't want to open that door to everything and anything. So what you should have over doors and windows is actually like a hematite or a tourmaline or something like that. So take your crystal cluster out and put that there, because you want an energy wash. So what's coming into your home is actually cleansed. It's clean, things like that. So, and they go, oh gosh, they do it, they change it, and all of a sudden the whole atmosphere and the whole vibe of the house changes into a much more positive environment. So when you start, working with them and seeing that kind of impact, it's hard to deny, but you can't prove it.
Yeah. Well, we've got 4 minutes left. All right, so one more quick question. I've been told that if you're given a crystal, you have to cleanse it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way, would you suggest, for cleansing a crystal?
Depends on the crystal.
Again.
Yeah, it does. It does depend on the crystal. Various crystals will respond better to different cleansing methods. If you're talking about the quartz family, in general, this is everybody, water is really good. If you've got a babbling brook, natural water is best, but worst case scenario, you can do it from a tap. Anything like tourmalines and obsidians, you'll want to go for earth or rice, something like that. Don't put calcites in water or the selenites, things like that. Don't put them in water because they're porous. So, it can disrupt the structure of the crystal themselves. There are different methods. And I've actually written one of my other passions is writing blogs and stuff like that. So I actually wrote a blog on this, which if you go over to Spirit and Soul Island, then it's up there for people to see different methods for different crystals. So there are lots of different methods, but yes, you must cleanse your crystals.
Yeah.
I heard you can also use moonlight if you have a light of a full moon to recharge crystals.
That's more for charging, yeah. And again, depending on the crystal, depends on whether you use sunlight or moonlight. But you can charge them yourself with your own energy as well. Don't forget that one.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I've got a citron, and it's all spiky.
Mm-hmm.
Big piece of crystals over here like that are so expensive now, aren't they? And it's all spiky. And I tell you what, it's a dust catcher, absolute dust catcher. And I was wondering, how do I cleanse that one?
That one's it's part of the quartz family, so you'll be fine to wash it.
Will it?
Yeah, you'll be absolutely fine.
Well, I've been tickling it with a duster every now and then. But,
no, you can wash that one, and you can use like a mild soap on it, like a hand cleanser or something like that on it as well, to bring it up if you wish to get the dust and dirt off of it, and just a really soft toothbrush as well, particularly if it's a cluster. Okay. So you can do that, but keep it out of the sun because it will fade.
Oh. That's more than now I know why it's gone that manky colour. Okay, all right. Right, so how long we got now, Mark?
We've got about a minute and a half. So your show is Paranormal Concept. It is actually premiered this week. And as a matter of fact, you can go to paukradio.com and download the first episode. And it's also streaming on our server. You can catch it all week long. That's what we do with our shows. We put them on every week, and they repeat in a loop, so you can always catch it. So we're really happy to have you on the network with us.
And before you go, please, everybody that's listening, because we are having COVID-19 all over the place, wash your hands, sing happy birthday twice while you're doing it. Wash your hands.
30 seconds.
Yes, that's right.
Is it 30 seconds to sing happy birthday twice?
No, you do it sort of once when you start washing, then more when you sing it again when you soap, and then when you're washing the soap off and you're singing happy birthday at each stage. And that takes you to 30 seconds.
Oh, I haven't been doing mine long enough then. Okay, so wash your hands, everybody. That's the best thing to do. Okay. Right, Mark.
Right. Well, guys, thank you very much for coming on the show, and we're looking forward to hearing your show playing on the network.
I've heard it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to another edition of the Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. You could catch us on our podcast weekly in streaming, and we also, of course, repeat Monday nights on Art Bell's Dark Matter Digital Network. Yes. So everybody have a great evening, and we'll see you all next week. Irene, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.